Hey, all my Aries friends. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Terry Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today with your November 2024 monthly horoscope. These horoscopes are based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I'm talking about Aries, I'm talking about Aries as the first house, Aries rising and dictating the landscape of the chart. This is also applicable to Aries, Sun, Moon, and if you have three or more planets, personal planets in the sign of Aries, this video is for you as well. When I refer to a day and a time, it's based on the Pacific time zone, so please adjust for your location. The month starts off with a new moon in Scorpio. I have done a separate video for that, so you might want to check that out. But the major aspect here with this new moon in Scorpio is a trine to Saturn in your 12th house. Scorpio is your 8th house of the psychological imprint that rules you, that kind of criminal within your mind, Aries, the one that gets you hot, gets you fired up. Your ruling planet right now during this new moon is in an opposition to Pluto. Pluto will not be in Capricorn again for 248 years. Something big is brewing, not only brewing within you, but brewing outside of you in the environment. So while the new moon, and again, I'm not focusing in on the new moon because I did the separate video. I want to focus in on the idea that Aries has an opportunity to really plant the seeds for unearthing and excavating anywhere there is hidden anger and frustration that you think is long buried or things you haven't processed constructively. Mars is in fall in your 4th house, meaning that Mars is not strong here. Mars is feeling kind of pissed off because Mars has to be more aware of other people's feelings. It also could very well be that Mars is pissed off because of what's going on within your home environment. The 4th house rules not only the home and family, but the country of Oregon and our roots. Capricorn rules government and control and trickle down nonsense that we have not enough control over and not enough influence over. And Pluto's been breaking that up. So it's really not an easy start to the month, and it's going to continue to be tense. I'm going to move now to the 3rd, where Mars moves, and I'm going to move later in the evening. Mars moves into Leo. Now, Mars is going to retrograde back into Cancer later in December. We'll get to that. But here, there's a significant change in energy, meaning Mars went from feeling, not empowered to fired up. Here we have Mars moving into the sign of leadership, into the sign of the personal heart, personal expression. And again, we still are feeling this opposition. It's super, super, I can't even begin to tell you how powerful it is and how it can play out in the most unusual ways, because it's like rings on a tree. I feel like the outside environment, we know that on the 3rd of November, we are 2 days before the presidential election. We know there's a lot of controversy around that situation in many, many ways. And this is just going to accentuate it in ways that don't poke the bear, Aries. Forewarned is forearmed. Use your power for good rather than reactionary, because this is your 5th house, and it could be, it just could be very lit up in a way that's kicking up the dust, old crap and old fears, old trepidation. So I can't really emphasize that enough. Now, we also see at this time that in your 9th house and in your 3rd house, we have an opposition between Venus and Jupiter. Jupiter is also in detriment here, meaning, we just saw Mars in fall in Cancer. Now we see Jupiter in your 3rd house. This is really a revision of how you think about your everyday life, the philosophies, the ideologies, the ways that you want to move things. And it's time to not rush. It's almost a time to slow down the retrograde and really think about how you want to make money, how you want to use your skills and your talents. The Sagittarius energy is not just foreign people, foreign places, and higher education. It rules a certain business and commerce, publishing, branding, marketing, and everything that all the content we create on the internet is starting to be that form of publishing, branding, influencing. So there's a bit of a push-pull, but yet at the same time, both of these planets pretty much like each other. And I think it's focused on money and the expansion of that money using your skills, which I love the trine here to your first house, because Chiron gets an opportunity to start to feel the reward side of the challenging energy that the wound is, the wound of self. So I think that's important. Okay, let's go now to Venus is going to move into Capricorn on the 11th. She's going to get very sober here. This is your 10th house of career. This is really where all the illuminations that she's had when she was in your 9th house, she's going to start to want to put the building blocks together here. Venus is not sexy here. She's not really focused on, getting the man. She's focusing on building herself, her life, what she wants, and she wants everyone to see it. She's very proud on some level of the boss lady that she is in Capricorn. And I think that Mercury, as Mercury is headed towards, we will see on the 13th, Mercury is conjunct the great attractor. And this to me feels as if Aries has an opportunity to really use the information garnished in the opposition between Venus and Jupiter, and now start to apply be aware of my thoughts, be aware of my speech, and start to use the universe as a tool to attract what I need. We're going to see Mercury retrograde in your 9th house at the end of the month, and it's revisiting the themes of last November 2023. They're going over similar points. So I think this is really powerful. And Pluto's at 29 degrees, 52 minutes, and about to pop into your 11th house, and it's going to change how you look at things, the landscape, the cosmic consciousness, the whole world is just going to go through a transformation, and you will personally yourself. Let's pop over to the 15th, and at 1:28 p.m., we have a full moon in Taurus in your 2nd house. And this is really powerful for me because it's conjunct Uranus. And Uranus has been having a continued conversation with Neptune and with Pluto. Uranus wanting to liberate itself from any of the dark fear, obligation, I'm not enough, any of the repressive energy, both inside and outside, meaning the things I tell myself that hold myself back, as well as the things outside of myself that hold me back. And Neptune in its retrograde is really encouraging, especially at this 27th degree, an awareness of using the human mind and thought and speech to facilitate engaging spirit, engaging the divine, engaging the universe into your manifestations, into your intentions. And this is where your affirmations come in. This is where your vision boards come in. This is where your ceremonies and your rituals come in. And you have an awareness. Am I really aligned in a way of hope and joy and faith that my things I want are going to happen? Or am I inadvertently, sitting on resentment balls and, nothing works out for me? That's the challenging side of Mars. It can really hold on to the shit. No offense. So here there's an illumination of some kind. This, the sun is in Scorpio that rules that dark psychology of your 8th house and how it's imprinted you. And boom, it's reflecting onto the moon, and Uranus wants to blow it up. So it's going to be really, really, really wild. And at the same time, on the same day, we see that Saturn has gone direct in your 12th house. Saturn that rules history, the 12th house that rules your soul's history. And we can see that there's a focal point here between Mercury and Jupiter and Saturn. Now, this is a loose kind of T-square, but the planets involved and the dynamics make it a strong focal point of your history. And this is time to start to use your history as an intuitive tool, which turns you into the peaceful warrior that gets things done because you can traverse your instinct and your intuition, your instinct to react and your intuition telling you, whoa, slow down, Saturn. Okay, now this totally got me because on the 19th at 11, or I'm sorry, at 1:28 p.m. Pacific time, Pluto makes its entry into Aquarius, your 11th house. This 1:28, that was the time of the full moon, the time that we see kind of Saturn's stationing still. It's an 11. Again, emphasizing that thoughts are things. And as I'm aware of my thoughts, I start to harness those thoughts. I become very powerful in my co-creation with the universe. And when Pluto moves into your 11th house, this is the house of your hopes and dreams and the potential of really reinventing yourself in a way that demonstrates a deeper truth of who you are, Aries, not just who you are portrayed to be. And I think it's super, super important to allow for that transformation, surrender to it, because I think there's good stuff on the backside of that. Now, we still feel this loose, but I mean, it's still very powerful and strong, but it's loosening up. And yet at the same time, the opposition between Pluto and Mars is going to come back into play. But this time, while Pluto is in Aquarius, and Mars is in Leo, we will feel when Mars retrogrades that opposition again, which is going to be very much about, a broader picture moving into the future and our personal freedoms and pleasures and the things that we want that bring us joy. So again, I think it's important as a natural warrior to be aware of your natural tendencies so that you can use them with, skill and with intention rather than reaction, because I think a lot of people are going to be reacting to things. Ooh, we have Mercury retrograding, and I'm going to do a separate video on that. But we have Mercury retrograding from the 25th of November until the 15th of December. I'm going to move to the 21st, Aries, because what I think is interesting is that when the sun moves into your ninth house of Sagittarius, this is going to be just a few days before Mercury retrogrades. As Mercury retrogrades, it's going to go over the sun and reflect on how do I express my ego? How do I express my ambition? How do I express my drive? And I think that's really important because your ruling planet here is hot, 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 and not fun. It's hard to put into words how this can play out. I've experienced something quite extraordinary this last week in this opposition, and I could not have pulled it. I could not have figured. I could never have anticipated it. So I'm very leery to try to tell you exactly how it's going to play out, but be aware because Mercury's retrograde is going to give you an opportunity to sort of individualize yourself within potentially a very challenging situation. So being aware that Mercury will be conjunct the great attractor on November 13th. It will retrograde over the great attractor on December 12th. I'm sorry, December 5th. And then it will move back over it direct on December 27th. So that's, I think, important to know, to use those dates and the time around those dates to harness that energy. The last day of the month is a full moon a new moon in Sagittarius. And that happens at 10:21 p.m. We go to the 30th. And I think this is really powerful because, again, we see that we have two new moons at the 9th degree. I believe that the first new moon was illuminating planting the seeds for the reconciliation of something that was holding me back psychologically, potentially even gripping me in some sort of fear about the power that money has over me, or potentially even other authorities. Sometimes when we work for companies, financial institutions, and the machine tends to drive choices that we may not make if we weren't stuck in it. So now I think this new moon is planting the seeds for some sort of individualization for you. Maybe even, starting to embark on some sort of new adventure in business. Definitely an awareness, planting the awareness for some sort of expansion. And I think that expansion will have to do with how you assert yourself, and in that assertion for your dreams, a little bit of the edges have been softened. We don't want to cut the edges off because we need to cut through the BS, but at the same time, I think that Mars ruled people are learning how to use their power for inspiration versus just kind of pushing through the crowd to get to where they want to go. So I will also do a separate video for this moon as well. But for all intents and purposes for the month, I think it's important to recognize the bookends that the Scorpio new moon starts and the Sagittarius new moon um, ends. Because when we look at the wheel, the human experiences a lot of trauma within the eighth house, and it changes your belief system. It changes how you connect with the angelic realm, with the divinity inside of yourself that then ripples out into this universe. And Mercury's retrograde in Sagittarius is going to accentuate that. Again, our thoughts are things. And to me, Pluto moving into Aquarius, I mean, we may make rockets, we may go to Mars, we may do all these other things, but more the bottom line is we're going to be very aware of the things that hold us back and control us psychologically, and we're going to deconstruct them and rebirth them into a more individualistic and liberated energy. All right, my Aries, that's it for November 2024. Forewarned again is forearmed. Put on your helmet. We're gonna be racing through some hairpin turns coming up here in the stars and on the earth plane. So keep your wits about you. And I will see you in December. Have a lovely November, sending lots of love. Bye-bye.